is over. Our old relationship of steadily deepening integration with the United States is over.
The persistent political friction surrounding Canadian dairy is a complex and multifaceted issue that goes far beyond the often simplistic portrayal of tariffs in public discussions. Welcome viewers to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. At its core, this conflict signifies a deep and fundamental schism between two competing visions of agricultural economics, reflecting broader ideological divides. On one side stands Canada's supply management system, a deeply entrenched and distinctly Canadian policy designed to bring stability to vital sectors such as dairy, poultry, and eggs. This framework, with its historical roots extending back to the 1960s and formally established in 1970s, operates on the principle that government intervention is both necessary and beneficial for preventing market volatility from wreaking havoc on farms and rural communities across the country. The supply management system is built on three crucial pillars: strict production quotas, import controls, and a price-setting mechanism. These components are meticulously engineered to guarantee a predictable income for farmers while ensuring a consistent, high-quality domestic supply of food for Canadian consumers. Proponents of this system, including organizations such as the Dairy Farmers of Canada, defend it vigorously as a means of achieving food security for the nation. They argue that this framework allows Canada to avoid the need for massive and often controversial government subsidies that characterize agricultural models in many other countries. Supporters assert that the stability provided by supply management is the envy of farmers in various nations, enabling long-term planning and investment without the looming risk of financial ruin caused by sudden and catastrophic price crashes. The most visible and politically charged aspect of this supply management system is its utilization of tariff rate quotas, TRQs, to control imports. Under the CUSMA agreement, a specified volume of U.S. dairy products is permitted to enter Canada duty-free. However, any imports that exceed these quotas are subject to prohibitively high tariffs, which can reach several hundred%. This situation serves as the source of the exorbitant tariffs that prominent figures like Donald Trump have repeatedly criticized in public forums. However, the reality is that these high tariffs do not represent a blanket policy. Instead, they serve as a theoretical last resort that has not been employed, as the U.S. has consistently failed to reach the agreed-upon quota limits. This crucial distinction is often obscured in political rhetoric, which tends to focus on the shock value of the high tariff rates rather than the specific conditions under which these tariffs would actually be applied. Critics of the supply management system, including think tanks such as the Fraser Institute, argue that these policies lead to higher prices for Canadian consumers. Some studies suggest that the financial burden imposed by these tariffs on the average Canadian family can amount to several $100s per year, disproportionately affecting lower-income households. However, the true source of conflict lies not with the existence of the tariffs themselves, but rather with how Canada has implemented the TRQ system. The U.S. has repeatedly and successfully argued in CUSMA dispute settlement panels that Canada's allocation of these quotas to its domestic processors fundamentally undermines the very purpose of the trade agreement. The U.S. position asserts that by granting a disproportionate share of the quotas to Canadian firms that have no incentive to import American products, Canada is deliberately restricting the market access it had promised in the agreement. This ongoing legal and economic tug-of-war highlights that the dairy dispute is not merely a disagreement over a single tariff or policy. It is a broader battle over the fundamental principles of fair trade and market access. Moreover, the dairy conflict must be contextualized within the much larger and more positive framework of the overall U.S.-Canada economic relationship. While dairy serves as a frequent source of political friction, it constitutes a relatively small part of the total trade between the two nations, which amounts to tens of billions of dollars in both directions annually. Official data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture reveals that Canada is not a closed market. Rather, it is one of the most significant and reliable customers for American agricultural products. For instance, in 2023, Canada emerged as the second highest importer of U.S. dairy products and secured its position as the top export market for U.S. eggs. This reality provides a vital counterpoint to the political narrative that often portrays the trade relationship as one-sided. The vast majority of agricultural trade between the two countries flows tariff-free, and this strong economic partnership continues to thrive despite the targeted conflicts over a handful of protected sectors. This points to a more nuanced understanding of the trade relationship, suggesting that while specific issues like dairy may be contentious, they do not overshadow the overall strength and interconnectedness of U.S.-Canada trade. The ideological divide over agricultural policy is further underscored by the contrasting ways in which the two governments support their farmers. In Canada, the supply management system is presented as a self-sustaining model that provides stability without relying on the massive government subsidies that are common in many other countries. In contrast, the U.S. agricultural model is characterized by open markets, where farmers are exposed to global price volatility but are supported by a wide array of government subsidies and insurance programs. These include the Dairy Margin Coverage (DMC) program, which acts as an income safety net for farmers, and the Dairy Revenue Protection (DRP) program, a subsidized insurance policy designed to help mitigate risk. This fundamental difference in approach, a managed, stable domestic market in Canada versus an open, competitive market in the U.S. that is bolstered by subsidies, serves as the primary driver of the ongoing trade friction between the two nations. The CUSMA Agreement, with its built-in review and sunset clause, ensures that these deeply rooted disagreements will continue to be a central feature of the bilateral relationship for the foreseeable future. As a result, the dairy issue serves as a microcosm of a much broader and more profound ideological struggle, encapsulating the complexities of agricultural policy and trade between these two neighboring nations. In summary, the Canadian dairy dispute is not merely a matter of tariffs or trade quotas. It encapsulates a broader ideological battle over agricultural policy and market access. The differing approaches taken by Canada and the U.S. reflect their unique agricultural landscapes and economic philosophies, and these differences will likely continue to shape their trade relations for years to come. The ongoing discussions and negotiations surrounding dairy are emblematic of larger themes in international trade, including the balance between protecting domestic industries and ensuring fair access to markets in a globalized economy. As both countries navigate these complex issues, the dairy conflict remains a significant and revealing aspect of their economic relationship.